This is Close Encounters. Close Encounters. True stories, real people. Close Encounters on Cross Rhythms.
Yes, hello and welcome to Close Encounters with me, Anne Donaldson. My guest today is John Flanner. John is a prolific author. He worked in the civil service for many years. He has an MBE for Services to Equality and Diversity. He's father to 4 children, has 9 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren. I've just learned that he also loves 50s and 60s music. So, John, welcome to Close Encounters. It's lovely to have you here today.
Thank you, Anne. Great to be on Cross Rhythms.
Yeah, we can't wait to hear about what sounds like a very full and busy life. But let's start at the beginning, John. Where were you born?
I was born in Birmingham. You might be able to tell by the accent.
Okay.
Born in Birmingham, the oldest of 4 children, and growing up there. And from a very early age, I developed a passion for football, and cricket for that matter.
Right.
You remember, Anne, back in the day, we played games in the streets, and we were safe to play on the streets. And I think I played football morning, noon, and night in the streets, and that was my passion. But we had lots of games in the streets, hopscotch and many other street games as well. But it was a great childhood growing up, and that was me really. So I was born in 1947, and I grew up in the suburbs of Birmingham, so that was me growing up.
So you had your home life, was that loving and a good childhood?
Yes, I had a very loving family, thanks. Yeah, Mum and Dad didn't have a lot of money. Dad went out to work and Mum stayed home and looked after the kids, as it was in those days. It's a very, very loving family. But the strange thing is, I grew up as a very timid child. I was very, very shy, very introverted, and except when I had a football at my feet, and I was an extrovert there. I played a football. I felt part of the team, part of the game, as it were. But generally in life, at school, I didn't like going to school because I felt very isolated, and because I just had a very low self-esteem for some strange reason.
Right.
And I really just thought I was skinny and ugly and didn't fit in with everybody else, except when I was playing football.
That was your passion.
In lessons, I couldn't hear very well. I had always had one ear with a hearing impairment, and I couldn't hear the teacher very well. I was always too shy to say, "Excuse me, can you repeat that, please?"
Yeah.
So school life wasn't very happy time for me.
No.
And the happiest time of all was playing football or cricket in the street.
Yeah. So when it came to the age of making a choice to continue in education or to go to work, what was your choice?
Well, like a lot of kids, I said about football, my dream was to be a professional footballer.
Right.
And once I was told, but when I was talking to my teacher, the careers officer, they told me, get that idea out your head. One, you're not good enough to be a professional footballer, but also you need to get a proper job. You need to get a proper education. Said, so have a rethink. What would you like to do? Of course, I was devastated.
Yeah.
At the age of about 13. I played football for the school team and everything, so I thought I was George Best or something really great. Anyway, I was very skinny as well, so perhaps that was the reason. I was too thin. But I thought, well, if I can't play football, the next best thing is to write about it. So I said to the careers officer, I'd like to be a journalist and write about sport. He said, that's fantastic. Now, when you leave school, he said, you'll need to stay an extra year at school, get your GCO levels, and then go to college and get more qualifications in journalism and stuff. I thought, forget that, mate. I can't stand school. So at the age of 15, I left on the Friday, and my dad got me a job at Fort Dunlop, in Birmingham, as an office junior. So there I was, and I was quite happy in that job. So that's what I did for my first job.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. And what influences were around you, John, at the time, good or bad?
Okay, well, the good influences were obviously that I was brought up in a good home where Mum and Dad loved us. And so that has been a bedrock in my life, that security of being loved. and I really don't know where this feeling of insecurity came from and inferiority. But I would say at school I had some very bad influences. The teachers in those days, I don't know what it was like with you, Anne, when you were at school, but did you ever have the teacher threw the blackboard rubbers at you?
No.
Oh, you didn't. You were lucky, because most of us in Birmingham seemed to have, and you had to duck because they lost their temper with you and threw the blackboard rubber at your head, and you had to duck quickly. And others shouted a lot, and I found a lot of authority figures used to shout, so I became afraid of authority figures. And I had another teacher who took a look at. We were making woodwork. We were making some washing tongues for our mums today, because they used to put them in the old washing machines and the boilers to get the washing out. And I thought, this is good. I'm making something for Mum. But after about 6 months, my teacher, I can see him now in his white coat, and he took my washing tongues, and he said, he threw them in the bin. He said, "We'll never make a woodworker out of you, will we?"
Oh, goodness.
And then that was very negative, because I never liked woodwork or metalwork or anything like that afterwards. So I just felt useless. So those are the bad role models.
Yeah.
The good role model was another teacher who chose me for the school football team every week.
Yeah.
I walked down the school corridor on a Friday, looked for the school team, post on the notice board, saw my name there, J. Flanner, number 10. Hey, I'm in the team! Fantastic. Every week I was so proud.
Yeah.
And his name was Mr. Biddle, and he was the English teacher. So overnight, because he chose me, then English became my favourite subject.
Oh, how lovely.
And all because Mr. Biddle believed in me.
Yeah,
and I think that is so powerful.
It's what you've just shared is so powerful, that how people can crush us with their actions and words, or how people can encourage us, and we can make those choices, can't we, to be encouragers and build people up. Yeah. And you continued working at Fort Dunlop, and then you had a major challenge when you were 19. Can you share a little bit about that, John?
Yes, certainly. Look, I didn't like my job. By this time, at the age of 18, 19, I'd moved on from being an office junior. I'd like to stay there for the rest of my life. It was lovely. But, I didn't like moving out my comfort zones in those days. I liked to be safe and secure. I've changed a bit since then. I like a challenge. I like adventure. But at the time, I'd moved into an office where we were selling motorcycle tyre sales, and also normal bikes as well, push bike tyres. So selling loads of tyres to big companies, and had to take the orders over the phone. I was petrified. Someone rang up, 28,000 tyres please, this pattern, this name, and I was scared stiff in case I ordered the wrong number or the wrong tyre.
Yeah.
Oh, I was petrified. So actually I wasn't sorry to leave that, but I wouldn't have chosen to go blind to lose my job, and that's what happened. I went blind. Began initially, funny enough, the things you love can turn on you. I had a bang on the head playing football, banged my head on the goalpost when I was playing one Sunday morning, and almost immediately I had blurred vision in my left eye, and it sort of cleared up for a while, but then a few days later at work I was checking a balance sheet and I couldn't read the figures, they were all blurred. So I went to the Birmingham Hospital. They confirmed I got a serious loss of vision. I kept going back to the hospital every week for about 5 or 6 months, until eventually the day came when the consultant, by this time I was almost totally blind in both eyes, and the consultant said to me and my dad, said, I'm sorry John, I'm sorry Mr. Flanner, but there's nothing we could do. John's going to be blind for the rest of his life. But they didn't really know. They were a bit confused, because they thought after bang on the head, they thought it was concussion and my sight would come back. But ultimately it transpired that I was suffering with a hereditary disease, which subsequently affected my brother. 2 years later, when he was 17, he went blind. Then 3 years after that, my sister went blind when she was 22.
Right.
So it turned out to be hereditary, coming down from my mother's side of the family. So although I had a bang on the head playing football, apparently it would have happened anyway.
Yes, yeah. And I can't even begin to imagine what that must have felt like, to hear those words, that you would be blind for the rest of your life. What impact? Can you remember?
Yeah. At first, it didn't seem real. I thought I was in the centre of a movie, because the day before, I'm going to say this word, I watched a film. Actually, I listened to it, but it's more natural to say I watched it. I don't say I listened to a film. I watched the film and on television the day before, and it was Reach for the Sky, the story of Douglas Bader, the war hero who had two legs amputated before the war. And his ambition was to be a fighter pilot, but he had his legs amputated. And as he was lying in hospital after the air crash, he on the film you hear the voiceover where the matron comes into the ward and says to the nurse, "How is Mr. Bader doing, nurse?" And she says, "I think he's given up and lost the will to live." Now, Douglas Bader heard this in his subconscious, and the voiceover again says, "Ha! They think I've given up, do they? I'll show them."
Yeah.
And of course, he went on to become a war hero, and he did achieve his ambition, and had an amazing career in the Second World War as a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
And that came to me when the surgeon said that.
Yeah.
And it said, and somebody inside me said, "I'll show him."
Yes.
And I couldn't articulate it like that at the time, but on reflection, that's what it was.
That's
but my dad was broken-hearted.
They would
My
be.
dad was just really broken up.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you for sharing that. And we're going to listen to your first song choice now. And you've chosen "There Is a Redeemer." Is there any reason why you've chosen that?
Well, I just think, first of all, it's a fantastic song. The words are great.
Yeah.
I used to love Keith Green, and of course, the first two verses of this song were written by his wife, Melody. And when she asked her husband, Keith, to have a listen to it, see what he thought, he said, "Well, it's a great song, but it's I don't think it's quite complete." She said, "Well, do you want to work on it then?" And she came down the stairs one day to hear him playing and worshipping in the living room area, and he was singing the words of the last verse. "When I stand in glory, I will see your face. There I'll serve my King forever in that holy place." And she said his eyes were closed and he lost and he looked as though he was in heaven.
Yeah.
And she said he must have had a vision, because just a couple of weeks later he was killed in a plane crash with their two young children.
Yeah.
And I think that is just so amazing.
Yeah.
And every time I hear this song,
Yeah.
it reminds me of that Keith sang that when he was lost in worship.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
The words are
Yeah.
great.
You're listening to Close Encounters. I'm Anne Donaldson, and my guest today is John Flanner. And we were hearing just before that song about that news at the age of 19 that you were going to be blind for the rest of your life. And what impact did that have, John, in terms of thinking about your life going forwards?
Yeah. Well, again, fear. I mentioned about fear of authority figures, and I had lots of fears before going blind. Fear of the dark. I was terrified of girls as well, by the way.
Really?
But yeah, absolutely was. Going blind brought many more fears.
I'm sure.
Fear that I would never work again. Fear that I would never have a girlfriend or get married, and that sort of thing. Even fear of eating my food in public.
Yes.
And not being able to cut up my food properly. Lots of fears. But anyway, I had to go away from home for a few months to rehabilitation, to learn braille, how to use a white stick, practical skills like typing and learning to read braille. Various other skills as well, and I had to go to Torquay for that. I had 3 months in Torquay. It was absolutely wonderful. First time ever away from home, and despite the fact I went away being quite shy, it went really well and I loved it. The only trouble was the committee who assessed whether we could be re-employed or receive further training so that we get to work as a blind person. They assessed me, said, "We got good news, John. We're going to send you to London for 9 months to train as an audio typist." And I went, "What?"
Yeah.
So what? Typists, they're full of women, aren't they? Typists are women. The only people I know typists are all female, and I'm scared of girls. But anyway, so I went to London a bit scared, say the least. I was there for 9 months, and I had the most wonderful time. I passed all my exams with flying colours. I ended up getting a job in London in the civil service. But the greatest thing of all was my typing teacher, who was so very strict and very old school. Turned out that she was the person that God had sent along to introduce me to Jesus.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing. And she asked us in this classroom one day if any of us would like to go to her house on a Sunday afternoon for tea. Her and her husband and family in Croydon, I think it was. But she said, the only thing is, after you've had tea, you have to come with us to church. And of course, nobody wanted to go. And she said, you'll come, won't you, John? You're a Christian, aren't you? And I said, yeah, well, I'm not too sure actually. But she said, oh, come on. Anyway, I didn't commit myself, but she came and saw me. She was she was on staff duty one night. She came and saw me, and she said, you seemed a bit troubled when I asked you if you were a Christian. I said, well, I wasn't sure. I said I was christened when I was a baby. I went to Sunday school. I consider myself a good person. She said, let me read to you from the Bible. And she read to me from John chapter 3 about Jesus meeting with Nicodemus, saying you must be born again. And it really scared me. It really frightened me, thinking I might not be a Christian. I couldn't sleep after that.
Wow.
I thought, what if I die tonight? I'm not a Christian. Will I go to hell? You know, I just had those thoughts. And anyway, she introduced me to 2 other young couple, Margaret and Tony, young blind married couple. And they asked me to go and stay with them for a weekend. They were Christians. They went to Westminster Chapel, and I went along with them on the Sunday night. And it was the night that changed my life.
Oh.
I met Jesus there that night. It was so amazing. And the guy who preached, I was not looking forward to the sermon because I thought I'd fall asleep. But it was absolutely riveting. He spoke from the book of Ruth about Jesus being our Redeemer kinsman.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic book, 4 chapters, a most wonderful love story. And I'm still a sucker for a good love story, Anne. Yeah, I'm part of one, aren't I, with Jesus? I'm part of a great love story.
That's it.
And so I was gripped by that story about the Redeemer kinsman, how Boaz bought Ruth. And just married her and blessed her and protected her.
Yeah.
And I loved the story. And afterwards, I asked someone to pray with me.
Yeah.
I sat and asked them, and they prayed with me, so I became a Christian. I gave my life to Jesus, and from that moment on, my life began to change.
Wow, that's wonderful. We want to hear in a minute, but we're going to listen to your next choice of music, which is My First Love. Yes, this is Close Encounters with me, Anne Donaldson, and my guest today is John Flanner, and we're hearing about that day, that day that you chose to follow after Jesus, that day of your salvation, that day of new life, and what impact that had on you, John.
Certainly did. I was so excited. I'd never had so many hugs in my life when people got to know in the church that I prayed this prayer to give my child to Jesus. I thought, this is great. People really like me here and giving me all these hugs, and I felt very loved. But I went back to Birmingham, told my parents. They were horrified. They thought I'd become part of some sect or something. They said, you didn't need to do that, son. We had you christened as a baby. That made you a Christian. And I said, oh, yeah, Dad, but it's not like that. It's a bit more than that, you know.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't have it. And my brothers and sisters thought it was a bit funny as well. My mates just laughed. And then I was working in London at the time as well, so when I went back to London, told the people I was staying with in Stoke Newington, where I lived, I told them, and we went down the pub, and they were telling the whole pub, and they were all laughing at me, you know, and it was really, I thought, oh dear, I began to lose confidence and think I'd made the wrong decision. Maybe I'd been gullible. And then I was coming back to Birmingham on the coach one Friday night, and my head was all over the place. I got 1,001 questions. Am I really a Christian? Was it right at Westminster Chapel what they told me? Or was I just gullible? What about other religions, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs? Will they go to heaven if there is such a place? And these thoughts were going around my head. I was really troubled. It was someone sitting next to me, so I didn't speak out loud. But I had a brilliant idea, and I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to pray. And I prayed this. I said, dear God, if what happened to me at Westminster Chapel was real, would you please prove it to me by giving me a girlfriend? That's not very religious, is it?
No, it sounds...
that's not religious. It's a relationship. It's talking to my dad. It's talking to my Heavenly Father,
Yeah.
which I didn't know at the time. But that was just a heartfelt prayer. And 2 weeks later, exactly, I met the girl who was to become my wife. And it's a funny story, but I won't go into it all now. But it all involved a cockle.
Right.
Cockles and mussels and stuff.
Yeah.
And all I said to this girl one night was, "Excuse me, would you like a cockle?" I was going to share my cockles with her.
Yeah.
She said, "No, thank you," but she became my wife. And so on our actual 4th date, I asked her to marry me.
Right.
Because I didn't believe in keeping the Holy Spirit waiting. I prayed. God answered my prayer, gave me my first ever girlfriend, and so I asked her to marry me, and she said, "Yes, of course I will." So, and we were married 11 months later. You could say what took you so long.
That's absolutely
Well, it took us pluck up the courage to ask her mum and dad first.
Yeah.
But that was amazing. So my first answer to prayer was he gave me a girlfriend who became my wife.
Yeah, and also that fear of ladies and
yes.
girls,
I know.
that was dealt with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I had to get over that one quickly.
We're not so scary.
Yeah. No, not at all.
And I think then the girls surrounding you in family increased rather quickly.
Yeah, just a little, yes. I mean, we had a wonderful first year of marriage, and leading up to our first anniversary, I said to my wife, not dreaming she'd say this, I said, "What would you like for your first wedding anniversary?" She said, "I'd like a baby."
Aww.
I said, "No. Well, it's part of a good thing, we're doing all right here. I didn't think you want a child." But anyway, she did get pregnant quite quickly. So we had a daughter, Beverly, and then would you believe it, 10 months and 10 days later, she gave birth to twin daughters, Sarah and Alison. So I was being overrun by females now. So as you say, overcoming the fear of girls, and don't tell me God doesn't have a sense of humour.
And your passion and love for football continued. Your football passion for Aston Villa?
Absolutely. I still even as a blind person, still went to Aston Villa games.
Yeah.
And yes, I was still very much involved with football. And I had a very interesting experience during the, there was the time of the football hooliganism, the riots and everything.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Heysel Stadium disaster.
Yes.
And I felt so ashamed of that because of being British and stuff, and I'd got so much negative publicity. I thought, this game has become so evil, I'm not going to go anymore. And I really wasn't going to go to another football match. But I was in church one Sunday morning, lost in worship, and this came to me, it's like a vision. And I saw this, it said, "Let your voice be heard above that of the heathen." And I thought, what's that all about? So I actually spoke it out. And I thought I was saying back to God, "Lord, let your voice be heard by that of the heathen," because all the politicians and do-gooders were having their say about, bring back the birch and bring back the death penalty and everything like that. But I felt the voice of God wanted to be heard in the country. And then God was turning it back to me. He said, "Let your voice be heard. You're my representative." And so, long story short, I got in touch with Aston Villa. We formed an Aston Villa Christian Supporters Association, and we were able, as a small group, we met together before every game to pray as a small group. And we did see change. We prayed for atmosphere on the terraces, for peaceful atmosphere. We prayed for the players and so on. And so we had an amazing time.
Yeah.
And of course, the big thing was that we said what we'd like. We went to the chairman of the club and we said, when the new season starts, can the two teams come out side by side? So it creates an atmosphere of togetherness and unity rather than teams come out separately. You get lots of booing. And the chairman liked the idea. He said, well, when the new season comes around, we'll ask the opposing chairman if he agrees with it. And if so, we'll do it. When the new season came out, of course, the Villa's first game of the new season was against Liverpool. And of course, they were the team involved in the Heysel Stadium disaster. Mm-hmm. So they contacted Liverpool Football Club, and Kenny Dalglish, the manager, thought it was a great idea. So for the first time ever in this country, apart from FA Cup finals and international games, in a league game, the two teams came out side by side. And it's happened everywhere since. It's spread around, well, I'm told it's spread around the world now, and everybody does it. It's the norm.
Yeah.
But it all started through that little prayer group.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And then you had a very a key holiday in Zante, I understand.
Yes, this was many years later.
Yeah.
I'd been working for quite a long time then in the civil service in Birmingham, and I was almost scared to say I worked for the Inland Revenue, but I was the good taxman. So I'd worked for a long time in the Inland Revenue, and Sylvia and I used to love to go on holidays. And once the children had grown up and we were on our own, we used to like going to Zante. And this one weekend we went, and it was in 2014. And we'd just heard that I'd been offered an MBE. And on the weekend we're away, it was going to go public in the newspapers. But while we were away, my wife was taken suddenly ill, and she became very confused, didn't know where she was. We were going for breakfast in the morning, and she suddenly said, "John, where are we?" I said, "We're going for breakfast." "Why?" She said, where do we have to go?" She said, "I'm not joking. I haven't got a clue where I am." And so I had to ask a fellow holidaymaker to show us to the restaurant. Ultimately, we had a doctor called out, and he said the oxygen levels were very low, but he monitored her for 24 hours. But the next day he said she needs to go into hospital. So she went into hospital in Zante, where she had a major stroke, and she stayed in hospital there for 2 weeks, more or less, barely conscious. And we had to, they told us, "You need to get Sylvia back to England so she could have proper treatment, because our hospital is so small, we haven't got the right antibiotics and stuff." And so we had to try and get an air ambulance. Well, I hadn't got the right insurance cover for air ambulance, but fortunately my son had flown out to help me. He managed to persuade the insurance company as a goodwill gesture to provide the air ambulance to fly us home.
Wow.
So we had this very dramatic journey home, back to Solihull, and Sylvia recovered pretty well within 4 or 5 days when she got the right treatment. But that was so scary.
And how your faith in God? How did your faith play out in that challenge, in that crisis?
Well, I was very much aware by that time that God was with me. I felt very alone and quite frightened, but at the same time I'd learned to trust in God the best I could. But also I knew I'd got a lot of friends back home who were praying for us.
Yes.
And in fact, in 24 hours, when I told them we needed an air ambulance and we hadn't got the insurance, someone set up something on Facebook, and I was told that within 48 hours they'd raised £20,000 if I needed the air ambulance. People offering to donate. But this again is the body of Christ. This is the family of God.
It is.
And this is the kind of support that we experience as believers, which you need sometimes to remind yourself of the wonderful privileges we have, that maybe people who don't know Jesus don't have that experience.
That's right. We're going to listen to your next choice of song, Yet Not I, But Through Christ in Me. Thank you.
What gift of grace.
My guest today is John Flanner. And we were hearing about how your wife was taken poorly, how Sylvia was taken poorly in Zante, and how you came back to the UK and she started to improve. Your wife had been such a big part of support for you, hadn't she?
Absolutely. She was everything to me. You know, we had 49 years just over of marriage. And as in many marriages, it wasn't always easy. We had our highs and lows, we had our struggles. Sylvia and I were very opposite in many ways, and so sometimes that led to clashes, but she stayed with me through everything, and all my crazy ideas and adventures, she was very happy to support me in that. And she turned out to be a really great nurse. You know, she worked for Marie Curie for the last 10 years of her working life.
Yeah.
But following that initial stroke in Zante, she did pick up really, really well. But then about a year later, she had another stroke, ended up in hospital. And in fact, altogether, she had 3 more strokes. And through that, developed vascular dementia. So for the last 2 years of her life, she was confined to bed. but she was very cheerful. It's quite amazing. She still retained a wonderful sense of humour.
Yeah.
So we got no bad memories of that time, really, other than the fact that it was the dementia that told her she couldn't walk. We were told by the doctors no real reason why she could not walk, apart from the fact that dementia told her she couldn't.
Right.
And in the end, the doctor told us to lay off, because if we kept trying to persuade her to get up and walk, it was tantamount to bullying.
Yes.
So we had to respect her. As far as she was concerned, she could not walk. And it was very, very hard watching her day by day in bed, and then having to have carers full time. But the sense of humour she had was amazing. I remember not long, during her last stroke that she had, I was beside her in hospital, and she said to me, "John," she said, "I think this is the end of the road." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I think I'm done for. I think I've run my race." I said, "Oh, I don't think so. I think God has more for you yet." She says, "Oh, come off it." I said, "Anyway, you talk about this being the end of the road." I said, "Are you frightened?" She said, "No, why should I be?" She said, "I've got Jesus. He's taking care of me. I'm quite looking forward to it." I said, "Oh, come on." I said,
Yeah.
"Okay." But even when she died, it came very suddenly.
Yeah.
On December the 1st, 2018, 2 days before we'd celebrate our 49th wedding anniversary, and she just went in. She just became unconscious, and she died within a few hours. But before she'd gone unconscious, we had a chat with her, and she said, "I know where I'm going. I'm really confident." And a lot of people used to say that John was the man with all the faith in our relationship, and Sylvia was just hanging on. And I always said that wasn't the case.
No.
And you know, when it came to dying, she was the one who had the faith.
Yeah.
And Anne, I just hope that when my time comes, my faith is as rock solid and as peaceful as Sylvia's was when she went. And that really helped me and helped my children to know that their mum is in a good place.
Yeah.
She's safe with Jesus. And I found after she died, I couldn't be ungrateful. But I was at a gratitude for the 49 years we'd spent together, thanking God from the bottom of my heart that he blessed me with a wonderful wife.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I think that has been the key to not being overwhelmed by grief.
Yeah.
It's thankfulness. That is massive.
Oh, that's beautiful of you to share that, and I'm sure that'd be helpful for some people who are listening to this, John. And I know that your wife used to read to you, and so when she became unwell, I know that certainly another person stepped in.
Yeah. Certainly Sylvia used to read to me Christian books, magazines, and when Cross Rhythms had a magazine, we used to get that every month, and she'd read that to me. But she read football programs as well. She was always very supportive. But after Sylvia died, a man from church came to visit me and said, "Now that Sylvia's died, he was reading to you." I said, "No," but he said, "Well, I'll come and read to you." So we started reading about the life of Hudson Taylor and George Muller and people like that, and Malcolm's wife would sit on the settee next to me because she had early stage dementia at that point, and sadly she deteriorated quite a lot now, and she's in a care home. But COVID struck, and Malcolm couldn't come around and read anymore because I was in lockdown. I live in apartments with people with certain, assisted living and independent living. So I live in the apartment block, but we came under the same restrictions as care homes. So we were locked down for 16 weeks.
Oh.
So Malcolm decided that he would record a chapter onto his iPhone and then email it to me, and so I could listen. And he's done that ever since.
That's
and we've now read, or Malcolm has read to me, over 200 books.
Wow.
Over 200 books in that time, as well as reading the Bible through 3 times from different versions.
Wow. That's a friend, isn't it?
Well, it's been an amazing journey. And Anne, I'll tell you, of all those books, at least 75% have come to us. We know have been sent by the Holy Spirit, the timing of God, and what we're learning together. I said we've been in our own little Bible college here.
That's fantastic.
We've really been built up and edified by this. It's incredible, yeah.
And God's been speaking to you about moving.
I've not been still for too long in my life. Back in 1972, God spoke a word to me. He said, "Launch out into the deep." And back then, God said, give up your job and work on a housing estate. So we did. Trusted God, and that was an amazing, scary and wonderful experience, all rolled into one. But ever since, God said a lot of the words he speaks to us are present continuous. It's not just one-off. And God said, continue launching out in the deep, not just a one-off.
That's it.
And God's come to me in recent months and launch out the deep, and he's asked me to move on from my local church where I've been for 13 years and just see where I will take you. Someone wrote to me and gave me these words, said, cut your ties, lift up your anchor, hoist your sails, and see where the Holy Spirit will blow you. So that's where I'm at, Anne.
Wow.
And this is one of the new places the Holy Spirit's brought me today.
Yeah.
So this is a new adventure for me now. See the next phase of my life to see where God will take me.
That's wonderful. We're going to listen to your choice of song, which is You're Still God.
When all foundations have been
You're listening to Close Encounters with me, Anne Donaldson. My guest today is John Flanner. And John, you're a superb communicator, and I know that you've written a number of books about your life. Could you tell us the titles?
Yep, I've written them all since I turned 60, so don't despair if you're getting on in years, will you? The first one is Fear, Fun and Faith, and that is my big one, really, that tells most of my life, leading up to me receiving my MBE. Second one is Bitaro Palace to Buckingham Palace, which covers the time when my wife was taken ill and the dramatic air ambulance back. Beautiful game, beautiful memories about my love of football, growing up with my dad and then supporting Aston Villa, but also other teams as well. So that's a very interesting book. Fourth one, The Well Overflows, I wrote during my 16-week lockdown during COVID to inspire people and encourage people on Facebook. And the last one, just published just over a year ago, 18 months ago, Striding Forward, Stepping Out with God as My Guide.
Wow, I just wonder if anyone listening would like to access a copy of these books. It's best for them to email you, and your email address is John, John, at Flanner, FLANNER.co.uk. So that's John at Flanner.co.uk, and if they email you, you can sort that out. Yeah,
Certainly will. As you know, Anne, I love emailing people.
I know you're a great communicator, and thank you so much for coming, sharing your story with us today. It's been an absolute delight hearing what God has done, transforming your life. And John, thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne.
Close Encounters on Cross Rhythms. True stories, real people.